Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's July 5th. It's Tuesday. We have 14 baseball games tonight, so a lot to talk about. No Cubs game because it's on the early slate. They're playing at like 2 o'clock. They're doing that Wrigley Field thing. They're doing their thing. Doesn't hurt my feelings, actually, because this is a really hot offense, and I never seem to get them right. Got him right on July 4th. Had a lot of Chris Bryant, and it paid off for me for sure. Got my man Siege. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. It's good to be back home in the office, not doing the podcast from a parking lot. It feels a lot more normal this way.
Dude, we crushed that podcast though. Like,
We
I
did
think
crush
you
that
should go back.
podcast.
I think you should go back to your car.
I know, right? That was one of the better. That was one of our better days. I just didn't put all the right guys in the same lineup, but we did had a great day.
Yeah. So I haven't been playing a lot. I've been playing a lot of the single entry stuff, and I've been super busy with work right now. So it's been crazy for me. I finally have a little bit of break here, and I actually love this slate tonight.
Yeah, we were talking before we hopped on that I really love this slate for tournaments tonight. I think this is a great tournament slate.
Before we get into the slate, we got to talk about our sponsor, fantasydraft.com. Make sure you guys head on over to Fantasy Draft, check them out. Use promo code GRINDERS. They have a $5,000 home run with a 6-entry max. Their goal is to make it where it's a level playing field for everybody. Like I said, use promo code GRINDERS. That way you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600, and you get incentives here at Roto Grinders for free for a year. A lot to talk about. So let's start it off. We have Milwaukee at Washington. Gio Gonzalez and Zach Davies facing each other here. Any interest in Gio?
No, I actually think this is Milwaukee right off the bat. I think is one of the first stacks that I think is really interesting for tournaments tonight. It really just depends which way the wind's blowing in Washington, but I do think the Brewer stack has some merit, so I definitely won't be on Gio.
I'm never against looking at pitchers or batters against Gio Gonzalez, so I can get behind it. I know Lucroy has hit Gio really well. I don't know the exact numbers, but I just off of memory, I know that he's hit him well. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of ownership we see for Lucroy. Zach Davies, he's been serviceable, but Washington's been a hot offense.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the spot to go ahead and attack with the Washington. I mean, Zach Davies is fine, but this is not the spot you want him. You want him against a right-handed heavy strikeout team, not the left-handed heavy team that doesn't strike out a ton.
Yeah, I think you're right. 100% on that one. And I just don't know if I want to take pitchers against Washington at home right now. Like, Washington as an offense, and especially – I would say Zach Davies is average to a little bit of better than average. It'd be interesting to see how he plays out over the next couple of years, but I don't think he's as bad as some of these other guys we talk about from time to time. But Murphy, he was out on Monday, and they're saying that it was just general soreness. Should be back in the lineup here on Tuesday. So he has to face Harper and Murphy, which can ruin his day, just those two bats.
Yeah, and those are the two bats I think that people have the most interest in other than the best home run hitter on that team, Danny Espinosa.
Danny Espinosa is on fuego, man. Like, I don't even care that he's hitting 242. He has 18 home runs this year. That's crazy.
I remember when he had like two, and I rostered him the one day because when my buddy was just like, dude, the advanced metrics said he's just going to get hot. And I read him out for like, I remember it was like home runs 4 and 5, and this could not have been more than like a few weeks ago. And he just like has just not stopped hitting since. It's unbelievable.
I play him a lot against lefties because he's always shown that power against lefties. But this year, man, it just all around is hitting the ball hard. So good tournament play, right? You know?
Yeah, it's a good spot for him against Zach Davies, too. He's the type of pitcher that I would want to target guys like Danny Espinosa against. So it's a great spot for him.
Got to have some interest in Harper, Murphy, Ramos, one of the most consistent catchers in baseball this year. The guy continues just to be consistent. He's hitting 340 this year. He has those 13 home runs, so he has the pop in the bat. He's probably the best cash game catcher right now, and I think he's better than Posey this year.
Sorry about that.
All good.
I don't know why it just crashed on me, but oh yeah.
We'll start again here. I'll start talking about Ramos again, and I'll be able to edit it from there.
Perfect. Sounds like a plan.
And then we got Wilson Ramos, catcher, 3,300 here on FanDuel. He's been one of the most consistent catchers this season. He continues to hit the ball well. He's hitting 340, and he has those 13 home runs that has given him that upside as well. Probably one of the safest catcher options for cash games this year. And I honestly think that offensive-wise, he's been better than Posey this year.
Yeah, he's been an absolute beast, but don't sleep on Posey yet. He's just starting to get a little hot. Homered again today. But, yeah, if you need a catcher, it's hard to go around with Ramos. That fantasy draft price at $9K, I'm all for being contrarian and playing catchers, but I don't think I could do it at that price point.
No chance. No chance that I'm going to pay $9,000 for Ramos and Harper $600 more, right?
Yeah, that's just not going to happen.
Looking at the other side here, Milwaukee bats that you like. I know you like the stack. Is that where you're going to approach this team with?
Yeah, Gio has always been a guy that can pitch well, but when he gets blown up, he gets blown up hard. And there's a lot of power on the Brewers. Lucroy, Carter, Braun, those would be the guys I would have the most interest in. Wouldn't mind Jonathan VR if you wanted to take the top. He's been cooling off a little bit lately, but I think he's going to get hot here again shortly. He's finally starting to see the ball a bit better.
I like Lucroy a lot here. I like the stack, what you're saying. I agree with there, but if I'm going to play a one-off, it would be Braun or Lucroy, and I think the Milwaukee stack is a really interesting tournament play here.
Yeah, I never like using Lucroy as a one-off. It's just not something that I'm ever going to do. But I understand wanting to do it. But for me, I would pay up a little more for Buster Posey if I was going to get him a much lower ownership.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up. He's 6 for 10. That's what I thought. He's 6 for 10 off Gio is Lucroy. So like I said, some good BVP. He hits the pitch type well that Gio throws a lot. So I like Lucroy here. I don't think he has as much upside as some of these other catchers, but I do think he's in a good spot.
Yeah, that's a completely fine point. He's definitely a guy that you can consider.
Atlanta at Philadelphia. Mike Foltynewicz against Zach Eflin. Eflin sucks, and I'm not afraid to say it. This guy's not a good pitcher. Foltynewicz, he's an interesting guy. He has that hard stuff that he throws, and he has strikeout upside. What's your thoughts here on him? Because I really don't hate him here.
I could actually kind of disagree with you on Zach Eflin. Can we start there?
Okay, that's fine. We can start with Zach.
He's not good. I don't think he's terrible though. I feel like he's the next version of Kobe Lewis or guys that we just stack against every time and it just never works out. He just feels like one of those control guys that's just gonna get away with not walking guys. One walk in his last 3 starts combined. I wouldn't stack the Braves here. I'm not saying use Eflin, but I don't think this is a good spot to be targeting Braves guys that aren't named Freddie Freeman.
I don't think you ever target Braves guys not named Freddie Freeman.
I just have a feeling that the Braves stack is going to become a trendy thing as this day goes on, and I couldn't disagree with it more.
Oh, I agree 100% with that. I think you're spot on with saying that Freeman's the only play here from the Braves. I just don't think Eflin's a good pitcher.
I think he's perfectly average. I don't think he's ever going to be someone we ever consider in daily, but he's a guy that you're just I can just see him turning into the next Mike Pelfrey, where you just get constantly upset that this guy isn't getting lit up. I did it once, and then I played him once, and if you don't walk guys, it's really hard to put up big innings, and he just doesn't walk anyone.
And that's a fair point. You know, we're 20 innings in here, and the walk rate is only 4.3%, and Double-A last season, 131 innings, 4.3%. So, I think you're definitely on to something. He's never going to be a daily option because he has zero upside. He's a contact pitcher, but I don't know, man. I don't like the Braves outside of Freeman, but I'm not playing Eflin here.
No, I'm definitely not saying playing Eflin. It's just more I can see people just wanting to talk themselves into the Braves because of the prices on these guys, and I think that's just a mistake.
Let's get on to Fultonevich here. He's 12,400 on Fantasy Draft. SP2. I have a lot of interest here, Siege. Like, this offense sucks.
Oh boy, the Phillies are just not.
They're a pesky team, man. They're like the Braves. These two teams playing against each other. These are like the two like pestiest offenses because every time you take a pitcher against them, they single you to death.
Here's my problem. I think Odubel Herrera is in like one of the best spots on the entire slate. So it's going to be really hard for me to roster Fulte against like a guy that I think could be the top scoring outfielder on the entire slate tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I can't disagree with you on Herrera. Like, if there's ever a guy to play, it's a lefty, and he's like the only lefty that you worry about that you're playing Fultonevich. So.
Yeah, and Cody Ashley's actually been – I mean, I know he let me down in a big spot today, but he's been hitting the ball decent too. Like, this Phillies lineup is not as bad against right-handed pitching as it once was. It's still dreadful against lefties, but I just don't think I'm going to target Fulte on this slate. But there's a lot of more options I have better interest in, but he's a fine option if you like him. Wouldn't try to talk you out of him.
I like the price play, and if the Phillies score runs, I just don't think it's going to be a lot. So that's where I'm kind of at. Would you just
rather have Odorizzi against the Angels, though?
Yeah, but the Angels don't strike out at all.
Yeah, but it's a
15.5% strikeout rate. At least the Phillies are striking out over 21% of the time.
I guess I just don't see where the Angels like ever light him up. Like I just feel like he's a lot safer in this price point range.
I think that's fair. I do think that's fair. We'll talk about him when we get there. We mentioned Freddie Freeman. That's our guy here for the Braves. Do you have any interest in Jace Peterson outside of Fantasy Draft on maybe FanDuel?
Oh, boy. No. I'm just going to say no. I'm not going to start falling into this trap this early. No. The answer is no. I'm not playing any Braves that are not named Freddie Freeman.
Okay. Jace Peterson, if he's in the leadoff spot and he's cheap, I don't hate him here. But Freeman's definitely the play here. Looking at you mentioned Herrera. You pretty much already said why you like him. Now, looking at any of these other Phillies, you mentioned Eshi. Is he a guy that you might play?
Yeah, if he's batting third again, I absolutely will definitely give him consideration. His price point is just so fair. On Fantasy Draft, he's only 6K, and that feels like too good of a spot for a lefty against Fulte in a hitter's park.
Any other bats you want here?
Nah, not really.
You know a game that we can load up on some bats here, Kansas City at Toronto. We have R.A. Dickey against Chris Young. You want to talk about a lot of runs scored? This game should have a ton of runs scored.
Yeah, it should. Why is the total so low?
I haven't seen it.
I was hoping you had because I just pulled down the totals, but it wasn't as I forgot to write it down. But it's not as outrageous as I thought it was going to be. Hold on.
I'm guessing 9.5.
Yeah, I don't think it was anywhere close to that. It was 8.5. Yeah.
Can we put an over/under on it being 9.5 before game time?
Yeah, I don't see this one. What am I? Oh, hold on. That was the earlier game today. It's 9.5. Sorry, you're right.
Okay. Don't scare me like that, man.
Sorry. Sorry, I scared myself because I was looking at the totals from the games today because I wrote it down as 8.5 too, and I was just like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, so we don't want Dickey or Young here, right? This is just not a good spot for either one of these guys.
You could talk me into Dickey at any point because totals with Dickey are just like he's either going to have it or he's not, right? And if he has it, he's going to do what he does, and if he doesn't have it, he's going to get blown up. And Kansas City isn't exactly a team that hits a lot of home runs, which is what you worry about against the knuckleball. So I actually probably have more interest in Dickey than most. I don't know if I'll go there because there's a lot of interesting mid-tier options, but I think he's more interesting than people might think.
Fair points. Obviously, you can start a knuckleball pitcher anytime they pitch because if the knuckleball is moving well, then they can always have those big games. I have no interest personally here. I have no interest in Chris Young. I do have some interest in bats. We'll start with Kansas City. Is there anything that really stands out to you here for the Royals?
I mean, Whit Merrifield's price isn't where it should be, in my opinion. I think it should be a lot higher. I think he's one of the safer options in sites where you need a middle infielder. I don't know how you don't consider him at 3,500 on DK and like 7K on draft.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy I'm looking at 6,900. I think you can look at Eric Hosmer as well, only 7,600. Pretty safe options in this matchup. But the one guy that I like here for some upside, Morales, man, he is hitting home runs right now. You knew it was going to happen eventually. Like, you knew the power upside for this guy was going to come around, and he has home runs in 4 of the last 5 games and 5 home runs in those 5 games.
Yeah, he has been absolutely on fire. I'm just not paying that price for him. I don't care.
3,100 on FanDuel?
Oh, I'll pay that price. I'll pay. I'm not paying 9,300 on draft. That's just. What do you think is going to be owned tomorrow? Like, is this going to be the highest owned we've ever seen Kendrys Morales tomorrow against a knuckleballer at 3,100 on FanDuel?
I think he's going to be very popular.
I do too, and that could be
a reason to stay off of him. Let's be honest.
Yeah, if you ever told me Kendrys Morales is going to be 25% owned, I'd be like, great, that's the easiest fade on the history of baseball without knowing the situation. But I think it's a good fade spot if you don't want to play Kendrys Morales. I totally get it.
Morales is 5 for 20 with 1 home run off of Dickey in his career. No extreme great BVP, no really bad BVP as well. It's pretty mediocre, so kind of fits into what we were saying. If you want to play Dickey on a tournament team because of the upside, I guess it's there. I don't like him. Chris Young, on the other hand, we want all these bets. Like, every single Blue Jays bat is in play, in my opinion. And I think Saunders is one of the top plays on the board tonight. Yeah,
it's pretty site-specific on the price. The prices on Fantasy Draft are actually not as bad as I thought they'd be. I thought that the Saunders would be like closer to 9K, and he's coming in at 8.4, which I think is really fair and probably cash game playable at that price. But again, it's just really tough. Chris Young, one of those guys that you always stack against, and sometimes you're just looking back and going, well, what happened? Why didn't they score 15 runs? He's a fly ball pitcher in a bad park for fly balls, but they still could end up on the warning track. So I don't know. I think I might pass on Toronto because the prices aren't high enough to scare people off. But I understand it's a huge risk.
Yeah. The last couple of years, I would agree with you on Chris Young. We've targeted him a bunch. This year, not so much, man. 57 innings. He has a 3.43 home run per 9. He's getting mashed this season. He has a 43% hard contact rate this year. Like, he's getting hit hard. It's Toronto. It's a great hitter's ballpark. I like the Blue Jays stack a lot here.
Yeah, I understand it. The problem is it's going to be 35% owned because they're just not priced up where they have been. Like, they've been priced up at 49, 5K for these elite guys, and they're not at that price point right now. So it's a little concerning that they might just be super high owned, and there's a bunch of good options on the slate.
The only thing, real quick, how many times have we guessed ownership percentages this year and we've been way off because people just continue to miss stuff?
Yeah, this is a fair point. We really have been whiffing this year a lot on ownership percentage. And I just think it's the dynamic pricing. Just like, it's really hard to adjust, understand how people are just going to adjust to this wide shift in pricing day to day. So you really just can't get like a flow for it because it's just like you don't know how someone's going to react to some guy that's 2K underpriced. Yep. Sometimes they go unowned, and sometimes they become like mega chalk. It's just, and I don't know how to make that more predictable, honestly, either.
I don't either. And FanDuel, first glance when I was doing my research here, it looks really soft on this slate as far as pricing goes. I think it's going to be a really high scoring night. So I'm not against fading them, but I want exposure to them. I really do. Let's move on. We have Miami at New York, the Mets, Steven Matz, Wei-Yin Chen. Two lefties facing off against each other. Do you have any interest in either one of these guys?
No. When I see totals of 8.5 in the – what is that now? It's not Shea Stadium. Why am I blanking on the name of that park? Citi Field.
Yeah.
I see 8.5 totals in New York, and I'm suddenly going to have massive interest in the offenses, to be honest.
Well, looking at these offenses, like, both these teams have been banged up, I think, all year. Even Miami right now, Justin Bour dealing with an injury. Justin Bour wasn't going to start in this game anyway. It was going to be Chris Johnson. So, man, I'm looking at Chen, and I want to have interest, and then I dig into it more, and I think he's like an easy fade. Like, the Mets offense has just been so bad, but I can't pull the trigger here with Chen. He's really struggling with righties this year.
The Mets are on fire right now too. They had a massive series against the Cubs. I don't know if I really want to be target. Like I could fade the Mets offense, sure, but I don't know if I really have much interest in attacking with Wei-Yan Chen. Not a guy with massive K upside by any means.
So let's start here with Miami. Instantly, Stanton, Ozuna, both these guys, massive lefty crushers. What's your thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, I think that they're perfectly fine tournament options. If you're going to stack the Marlins, I think those are two guys you have to have. I don't mind them as like a little two-man team. I think that's an interesting stack as well. Just kind of like to fit with maybe another stack you got because they got the most upside for the Marlins.
I think Ozuna's cash game playable on FanDuel today. 2,600 for a guy that just mashes lefties. I know it's Steven Matz, and he's not typically a guy we want to pick on with a lot of bats, but 2,600 for Ozuna and 3,000 for Stanton. Like I'm saying, it's really soft today.
Yeah, that is super, super soft. We should probably make the case for Chen, though. Like, there's a case to be made, right? The Mets do lead all Major League Baseball in K percentage against left-handed pitching at 25.6. That's just massive.
I know, but like, so that's what I'm saying. Like when I was first looking at it, like the interest was there, but it's Chen. Like he's so frustrating. Anybody that gives up over a hit per inning just instantly should be scratched off your list, right?
Should be, but this is just one of those dream spots. And
it's a great spot.
He does have these starts where he'll strike out 6 or 7. If he strikes 6 or 7 out against the Mets, he could be in a really good spot for 5,600 on DraftKings and like 11-2 on draft. That's if like you could lose the slate by fading him at that price. Like if he was like 7 or 8K, I would just say you're not going to lose the slate because of him. But you could lose the slate if Chen goes off in this spot.
Yeah, and his last start in Miami, he looked good up until that rain delay. They let him come back out after like a 55-minute rain delay. Got pounded around after that. So, man, you're making me rethink my like when I first looked at it, I was like, God, this is a great matchup for him. Even Cespedes, probably one of the best Mets hitters, probably the best hitter in this offense. Like he's even better against righties.
Yeah, he struggles with changeups against lefties, and if I remember correctly, Chen's got a really good changeup.
All right, I think I'm gonna look into this a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel like this is a guy you're gonna have to look into and get back. We'll get back to you.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk bats in this game. We talked about the Marlins. Chen, here we go. Is there anybody that you want against Chen?
I would stack it if I'm going to play that. I'm going to play it, but I just don't stack against Chen that much. Like the Mets were so hot over the weekend, I think they'll be just a little higher on than they should be in this spot with the little inflated total. I think it's a pass for me.
I'll throw one name out at you, CJ. Catcher Travis d'Arnaud, FanDuel 2,200, where you have to play a catcher. I feel like that's a really solid punt play.
Yeah, but why are they batting him eighth?
I don't care if he's batting 8th, 1st, 2nd, 9th. He's a punt catcher. Who cares?
Yeah, I know, but he's actually like decent.
I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. I hate when people bat 8th, but at 2,200 in a matchup against Chen, like we want a righty against Chen. He has massive home run splits. Like he gives up a lot of hard contact to righties. I don't mind d'Arnaud.
No, I don't. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I definitely think he's a particularly good punt option at that price.
Man, I'm going to have to look into Chen a lot more. Texas at Boston, David Price, AJ Griffin. Oh, the Red Sox. Are they finally heating back up?
Oh, boy. I was really hoping that they were facing a lefty. Let me tell you now. I'm fading the Red Sox against every lefty for the next month. They have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. I was talking to Jeff in Vegas about this. We went to the border one day, and he wanted to stack the Red Sox against Martin Perez. And I'm just like, without Chris Young, this Red Sox lineup against lefties is just bad. And they've just been consistently bad since that start. But unfortunately, they get A.J. Griffin here, who's not a lefty. Here's my problem. Like, I've always liked A.J. Griffin more than the masses. Like, and he's been good this year. Like, he's been good. Now, he doesn't have overpowering stuff. This isn't like when John Gray went into Fenway and we were talking about playing John Gray. But I got some concerns here. I don't know if the Red Sox are going to be in that great of a spot today.
I think it's fair that we can look at the lefties and kind of stay away from the righties. They're all priced really high for the most part on draft and on FanDuel. So, and when you're looking at Griffin, like you said, not a lot of overpowering stuff, but against righties, in 20 innings, 251 WOBA, 25.6% strikeout rate, a .45 home run. He's only given up one home run in 20 innings. So I think we can stay away from Mookie and Dustin Pedroia and Xander and just look at David Ortiz and Brock Holt here.
Yeah, he's a revert. Lefties are just not hitting the ball against him either. Like, they've got a 185 average against him this year, and he's been reverse splits in his career too. Like, I guess he's neutral splits, really. I just think the Red Sox are a trap. I just don't like the spot. Ortiz is always fine play, but this is like one of those things. I think that they're going to be one of the top offenses, and I'm not quite sure that the lineup is going to match the ownership percentages and the prices.
So you might not agree with this, but my first fantasy draft play under 8K, Brock Holt at 6K, swinging a really good bat right now. 6K is a really fair price tag for him. I like him a lot over on draft at that price tag. I knew you were going to like it.
I don't think it's terrible if you're just using him as a punt, but I just think as the day opens up, I just think you'll find a better punt play than him.
We'll see how it plays out. That's all I'm going to say. Looking at David Price here, any interest in Price?
Maybe. It really depends what Rangers lineup they throw out. If they throw out the one with the lefties in it, I'll be interested. But if they throw out all that right-handed heavy lineup, then probably not.
We have three pitchers. Usually, it's very rare that we have double-digit K upside pitchers on this slate. It might even be more than three, but Bumgarner, Carrasco, Price, all these guys have double-digit strikeout upside. I think it's a day that we can look elsewhere instead of Price.
We'll get there, but there's one pitcher on this slate that is just way too cheap for his talent in the matchup.
Now, Price, like you said, Texas rolls out a lefty-heavy lineup, definitely going to boost our interest. So it's going to be a lineup thing. Like, if we see Mazzara and Odor and Chu and Fielder and all these lefties in the lineup, it might boost my interest a little bit for Price.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I feel about the situation.
Any interest in Adrian Beltre here against Price?
No. I get it, but it just feels like the wrong slate for that.
He's 2,600. It's going to be such an interesting day on FanDuel. He's 2,600. There's so many cheap plays.
Yeah, this is probably the softest FanDuel pricing we've seen in a long, long time.
Detroit at Cleveland. Carlos Carrasco against Anibal Sanchez. Sanchez getting the bump into the starting line. Starting rotation again with Zimmerman heading to the DL. He's been pitching out of the bullpen. He's been pitching better, but when you're pitching out of the bullpen, you have to come out and throw your best stuff for an inning. It's not a start. So Carrasco, this guy is really good. I don't care what anybody says. I'm a big Carrasco fan. I just don't know if this is exactly the spot that I want to target him in.
I like him in this spot. Detroit's been kind of scuffling a little bit on the offense. They did just score a couple runs late, but they haven't exactly been like the high-powered Tigers offense that we've known from the last month and a half. I think that it's a solid tournament option. I think the price is fair to take the upside gamble because people are just not going to pay that price, and he's just been on an absolute tear last few starts, just 43 and 40 DK points. That's just insane. So when you're hot, I don't want to fade you, and right now he's hot, and he just threw a complete game shutout against this team like 2 weeks ago.
No, and I was going to say, he's probably one of my favorite tournament options. Cash games, though, I can't do it. But tournament-wise, Bumgarner is going to be absolutely chalky. Obviously, with the pricing, Bumgarner is going to be highly owned here on FanDuel. So Carrasco, I think he's a really good pivot in tournaments.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's just he's got the upside to beat Bumgarner, and that's what I want to see. And the price gap is so small on fantasy draft that it's just like no one's going to play Carrasco without Bumgarner. So it's going to be a super contrarian move, and it has the potential to work.
Now, looking at bats here, we want some of the bats against Sanchez, right? Like, he hasn't shown us anything this year as a starter, at least.
I'm not paying these fantasy draft prices. Maybe on FanDuel, but I mean,
Well, FanDuel, you can play anybody you want. Let's just whoever you want in your lineup on FanDuel today, you can play them. So yeah, looking at draft, Carlos Santana 9,200. I guess that's not awful, right?
nah, it's not awful. The rest are just there's no way. I just can't talk on a big slate like this. Like, I can't pay 9,600 for Rajai Davis or 10K for Kipnis or 9,200 for Lindor. Just there's no way.
Now on FanDuel, do you like any of these guys? You can fit them in. Looking at Kipnis, he's 3,000 as a second baseman here. Like, there's good pricing on these guys. So outside of draft, where we say pretty expensive, you can play the Blue Jays at the same price tag. So who do you like here for the Indians outside of the fantasy draft?
Yeah, you definitely mentioned Kipnis at 3K. I think is fine. Lindor at 3.2 on FanDuel, I think, is also a perfectly good option, but he's been super cold. So it's really tough, but I think this is potentially a good spot for him to get right.
Yeah, his price tags drive me nuts. Any Tigers bats that you want here?
No.
Oh, if you're playing on FanDuel, Miggy Cabrera, 3,300. I'll take Cabrera against anybody at that price.
I could see Victor Martinez hitting 2 home runs and just laughing in my face, being like, "Ha ha."
He does that too. Like,
he does do that. It's done it like twice in a week.
I never play him, and I just write off the days that he hits home runs. But he does do that sometimes. It drives me insane.
It drives me nuts too because I never play him.
All right, let's move on. We have the Angels and the Rays. Jake Odorizzi against Tim Lincecum. You mentioned Odorizzi earlier, so I'll let you run with it here.
Yeah, I think it's a really good spot here. Odorizzi is just a guy that has just been really struggling in his career against the AL East, the division he knows the most. And he's pitched pretty well against outside of the division his entire career. Gets an Angels team that's pretty had a good series in Boston, but doesn't have a ton of upside. Big, nice hit pitcher's park here. I think it's a decent spot for him. The only concern is obviously he's a reverse splits guy. I wish there were a couple more lefties in the lineup, but I'm not really worried about Jeff Bandy and Carlos Perez and Johnny Giavotella or whatever, like Shane Robinson, whatever we're going to throw out there. When Daniel Nava was batting cleanup for a couple games last weekend, you can target pitchers against them.
Yeah. So here, how do they say it in the courtroom, CJ? Here's my rebuttal.
Yeah.
All right. My rebuttal for Odorizzi is he doesn't pitch deep into games. He throws too many pitches. Every time you watch Odorizzi, Archer, Matt Moore, any of these guys for the Rays, it's just so frustrating to watch them because they throw too many pitches. Like, how many I wish I had the stats in front of me, but I want to know how many full count pitches just the Rays and pitchers this year have gotten, because I bet you it leads baseball because they throw so many pitches they don't pitch deep into games.
But here's my thing. I would, if for 6,500 and you can tell me my guy's going to throw 100 and has a ceiling of 120 pitches for 6,500, sign me up.
It's
like
fair.
That's just, the upside is just so good there. Like, yeah, maybe they have control problems most of the time, but we saw what had happened if they don't have control problems. Like, if the Chris Archer's on point, guess what? You're going to lose if you don't play him.
I don't think it has anything to do with control issues. I think every single one of them are just going out there to try to strike everybody out.
Yeah, and as a daily fan, I can't ask for anything more than that. It's exactly what I want my pitchers to do. He's just been really good lately. Like he had the one bad start against Baltimore, gave up the 3 home runs, but he hasn't given up more than 1 home run in any other start since the middle of May. And the K upside has just been consistent. 7, the one bad start against Baltimore, 8, 9, 8, 6, 6, 7. For 6,500, and if I can put a floor of 6 Ks in there, sign me up.
I'm not saying that you're not making fair points here. Everything you're saying is fair, but you look at the walks and everything. It just I don't know.
I would much rather play Jake Odorizzi than Fulte for 300 more, and that's basically where we're at. So for me, that's a no-brainer.
I think I would go down to Chen. Anyway,
we're gonna end up with all the Chen, and I can just feel us on Twitter at 7:20, just going, "What were we thinking?"
Oh man, Tim Lincecum. We don't want Lincecum, right?
I mean, no, but
he's capable of big games. He showed some strikeout upside, but it was Houston. Tampa could strike out with the best of them, but I don't want Tim Lincecum here.
No, I don't want Tim Lincecum. Just because, it's Tim Lincecum. There's too many more talented guys on the slate than to do that.
Bats in this game as a whole, Mike Trout, probably the best bat, right?
Yeah, Trout, probably CJ Cron. He's been swinging a hot bat. Odorizzi is a reverse splits guy. And Cron's for real, too. He's just – I don't know what the Angels have been toying around with his games for. Just let the guy – you're not going to win games this year. Let the guy get his 500 at-bats, please.
Yep.
But, yeah, outside of that, I don't know. You could talk me to like a Rays stack. Like if Lincecum just gets lit up, he's going to get super lit up and the prices are fair. Just like Logan Forsythe at 7-1 on draft is just insane.
I think that you stack the Rays or you don't play them at all.
Yeah, completely agree.
Like there's no one-offs. The pricing on FanDuel where you have to have a shortstop like Brad Miller, the pricing is too soft that you don't have to play Miller on the slate. You stack the Rays or you don't play them at all.
Yep, absolutely. 100% agree.
Oh, I'm glad you agree with that. So you have any special ladies in your life, CJ?
Depends who you ask, right? She would probably say yes. I would probably say no.
Well, that's good because you can send her some Books flowers. Rule number 1 of Mandem, no matter what you do around the house, you're likely to screw it up. I don't need you to tell me that. Your wife told me. What can I say? She talks. Anyway, I can help you smooth out pretty much anything. Just send flowers from thebooks.com. Yep, gorgeous flowers from thebooks.com, hand delivered to your girl. Say, we're still all right, right? And apologies don't cost much at thebooks.com because Books prices start at a mere $40. There are no upcharges, no extra fees. Even delivery is absolutely free when you register with the Books. Listeners of our show save 20% off the book of their choice. Just go to Books.com and enter promo code ROTO, ROTO. That's Books, BOUQS.com, promo code ROTO, Books.com, promo code ROTO. Let's move on to the 8 o'clock games. Pittsburgh at St. Louis will be the first one. We have Mike Leake against Steven Brault. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Lefty, AA, AAA over the last couple of years. Everything I've read about him before the podcast, he's an athletic kid. He has some strikeout upside from what I'm seeing from his minor league numbers. It's just hard to translate minor league numbers and numbers that we're going to see in the majors. The one thing that I do like from what I'm seeing, he doesn't give up a lot of home runs, CJ.
Yeah, I actually was sad to see he wasn't available on the sites because he was a guy I was going to have a lot of interest in, to be honest. The Cardinals against lefties, I think, are due for some major regression. And I've been wanting to target lefties after lefties against them. And this is a good spot for him. It's unfortunate that he's not on the player pool. But for me, I definitely won't have any Leak, and I won't have any Cardinals exposure today.
Yeah, we don't want Mike Leake. Mike Leake, I've never been a big fan of Mike Leake. And I feel like this year it's been even worse. We're seeing the contact rate go up. We're seeing the swinging strike rate go down. We're seeing the hard contact rate kind of get to where we've always kind of thought it was going to be. It's almost 35% compared to almost 29% last year. The thing is, there still hasn't been the home runs, and he doesn't walk a lot of people. So what do we do here with the Pittsburgh bats?
I think we play Polanco on FanDuel because he's still underpriced, and then we just skip the rest. He's 2.9. I know the FanDuel pricing is soft, but that's absurd.
Oh, that's ridiculous, right?
That's beyond ridiculous.
Then you go over to Draft and DraftKings, and you're like, all right, he's priced right. Polanco, 9,900 on Draft. I still have interest there, right? This is an excellent spot for him.
You know who I also have a ton of interest in? I think he got a massive price drop from when I last played him on Sunday. Adam Frazier, if he corrects the lineup at 2K, this kid has speed, and he can hit too. I would have a ton of interest, especially I suspect Yachty will get the day off, and if he does, I think they're going to run often on Pena.
Oh, they're going to run on Pena. We've seen that already. And for his first start, I forget who it was against where Molina got the day off, but were you watching that game? I know your Cards, you're in that area, right?
Yeah, I was actually on vacation, so I didn't watch it, but I heard that it was just hilarious. It was they got on first, they ran on the first pitch, and it didn't matter if they pitched that or not.
I think they ran on to third as well. Like they were running on Pena a lot.
Yeah, and I definitely think this is just a spot. Yachty hasn't had a day off in 4 or 5 days now. I think this is where they're going to give him the spot, the day off.
Yeah, it was against Kansas City, so a team that can run. So if Pena draws the start at all this year, we just got to continue to pay attention to it because if Pena's behind the plate, you want to target guys that can run.
Honestly, this whole Pittsburgh stack becomes so much more interesting if he's behind the plate because all these guys can run, every single one, up and down the lineup. They could just have like 10 stolen bases, no problem.
I think that's a very fair point. The stack definitely becomes more playable. Just something you got to pay attention to. Do you have any interest in Stephen Piscotty here? We get a rookie lefty. He is the one guy that I would have a little bit of interest for.
Yeah, I guess. I just he feels like he's appropriately priced, and on a day where no one's appropriately priced, that's like an overpay.
I think that's why he's an excellent tournament play, though, right? Like 3%.
Yeah, probably. It's probably about right.
And he's the same. He's higher priced than Michael Saunders.
Yeah, and that's just not gonna fly. And like right above him is Nelson Cruz too against the lefty.
Oh, we're gonna talk about that. Don't you worry. New York.
I had a feeling we would.
New York heading to Chicago to take on the White Sox. Tanaka against Rendon. What's your thoughts here? Tanaka, is he a guy you might target in this spot?
I never rostered Tanaka, like ever. But this is a really good spot where I'm considering it. Like this White Sox team can just strike out a ton when they throw those right-handed bats out there. And the only reason they scored any runs at all in Houston was because of J.B. Shuck. I love J.B. Shuck. I'm the biggest J.B. Shuck homer there is, but that's not going to continue.
Oh, you are. That is for sure. I can't roster Tanaka here. I'm with you. I never play Tanaka. I'm always worried that he's going to go out and throw 3 pitches, say his elbow hurts, and he's done.
I've been worrying about that for 2 years. It's just like, at this point, I kind of just need to I feel like that's not the reason we shouldn't be rostering him at this point.
All right, so we need to dig into the stats and tell people not to roster him because his strikeout rate's down, his contact rate's up, and his hard contact rate's up this year.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we should tell the listeners.
And if we look at the White Sox, this offense hasn't been horrible. Tim Anderson, man, in that leadoff spot setting the table.
Yeah, he's been shortstop. Remember when shortstop was like a dead position last year? And now it's just like shortstop is one of the hardest positions. Every time I'm doing ECRs, I look at my list and I got like 8 shortstops on these full slates, and it's hard to cut down. Just unbelievable. He's been killing the ball every single day. And he doesn't get you to 0. Like he has had 1 0 in his last 10. That's just so helpful in cash games.
I agree. Now, what's your thoughts here on Carlos Rendon?
Never play him. Ever.
You say that though, but like this is the spot to play him.
Oh, the Yankees are terrible against lefties. Fudge.
They're really bad against lefties. Like,
and no one knows it too. Like Pomeranz the other night was just like 10% owned against the Yankees, and I thought that he had gotten scratched. Oh boy. It was a short slate. I couldn't believe. I thought my eyes were deceiving me. I'd been driving too long on the road. His control's been good lately too.
I think the upside on DraftKings and fantasy draft is there. I don't think he's a FanDuel play because he is facing Tanaka, but Yankees 27th in Team WRC Plus against lefties this season. Still don't strike out a ton at only 18%, but I think we could bump that number up a little bit with a strikeout pitcher here.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure what to think anymore. What's he like? I think you could make the argument that he's a better play on FanDuel because he's priced as like the 12th best starting pitcher, and I think he's higher than that. Like he's the same price as Wei Yin Chen and AJ Griffin, and I just think the upside is way higher on Rodon than anyone in this price range over here on FanDuel.
But like on FanDuel, you're gonna have to have the win, and it's gonna be so easy to fit in the top pitchers. Is it really a spot that you want to target a cheap guy? That the win is kind of questionable.
Well, I think you would do it if you're going to be stacking the two chalk high-powered offenses, so that you get like the best of the best. So it wouldn't be a spot where you're going contrarian and then using him. It would be I'm using a Toronto-Boston stack. Let me get all the great guys, and I have to sacrifice a pitcher with a guy with upside.
I think that's an excellent point there, CJ. I like that call a lot. Bats here. I really don't like anybody from the Yankees. I know people can make an argument for Alex Rodriguez, but I have no interest in him.
Starlin Castro is a one-off at second base. Is the only guy I would have any interest in at all.
I can see that. Depending on where he hits on fantasy draft, he's 5,400. That's an excellent price tag, even for a second baseman.
Yeah, that's a great price tag over there. Yeah, that's definitely a guy you can consider over there if you need a punt.
Tanaka. Not typically a guy we want to pick on, but looking at draft, we're going to get some good value here, probably more on the tournament side. Tim Anderson, 6,800. Todd Frazier, 6,800. Jose Abreu, 6,400 over on draft.
Yeah, absolutely. And JB Shuck, 5,400. He's hot. If you try to do the wraparound stack, he's been good. He's been really good the last week. Got 5 double-digit games in his last 8.
All right. People are turning off the podcast. So Seattle at Houston, Dallas Keuchel, Walker facing off against each other here. Any interest in these pitchers?
No, not one bit. I really was hoping. I thought James Paxton was going to get this. I thought James Paxton Daves was today, which is unfortunate because I really was excited for people to use Houston as part of a stack. But, I mean, Walker's interesting for tournaments. High K guy, so he can always dominate. If I remember, he did dominate this team earlier in the year. Yeah, he had 11 Ks against them, and then he left his second start hurt. I think it's a really good tournament upside play. Wouldn't touch him in any sort of cash format because he's about as volatile as any pitcher in the league.
Keuchel, in this matchup against Seattle, he's going to see some lefties here. Is there any interest for Keuchel for you?
I was just about to pull up the Seattle stats against lefties, but I'm pretty sure they're pretty elite. So I don't think it's a really good spot for them.
They're 15th in WRC plus, striking out just under 21%.
Yeah, the thing is too, if this, I can't. I just think there's better spots than Keuchel. Because first of all, like he's probably not going to get the win against Walker, to be honest, in this spot. Like I like Walker more. So now it's just like, what is his upside where I don't think he's going to get the win? And just there's too many other options in this price range today for me to go there.
Yeah, and like the Mariners can roll out some righties against him here. Like Daeho Lee's been playing every day. Nelson Cruz, one of the best lefty crushers in baseball. And Gutierrez, he is starting to come alive after a very slow April.
It's about time they realized, hey, we've got this guy who's batting 3-something, 100 with 11 home runs. Maybe we should stop playing him like once every 3 days. Good to see it took a team that's struggling on offense that long to figure it out. But it's good to see he's in the lineup every day. 7,200 on fantasy draft. I think he's a lock in your cash games at that price, to be honest, in that park.
Second fantasy draft play, Daeho Lee.
Hey, all right.
On the money, buddy. On the money. Already written down. So, yeah, love Lee here, 7,200. I think Gutierrez at 6,800. I think he's in play as well. This is a great ballpark for righties. This is a bad matchup for Keuchel, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is a disastrous spot for him. I think the Seattle stat is one of those sneaky stats that we can definitely roll out in tournaments with the home run upside. And there's this guy on FanDuel who's a little underpriced and hits lefties quite well.
Yeah, that Nelson Cruz guy, 3,700.
Yeah, there should be a 4. Like I still would roster him if the first digit was a 4.
Yeah, like we were saying, it's a great ballpark for right-handed power. Is there any Houston bats that you want against Walker?
Oh boy, I mean, I just think just too many guys are underpriced to really. I mean, I want to get on the AJ Reed bandwagon, but this is just not the spot. So I think it's a pass.
I think the only way you can play Houston is if you stack them, because they always have the upside if you stack them. And Walker's had those blown up games. He hasn't had many lately, but 3 to 5% owned stack that has 3 to 5 home run upside.
Yeah, I mean it's not. I mean I can't play everyone, so it's just not a place I'm probably going to end up. But I definitely it's Houston. They always have home run upside.
Oakland at Minnesota. Tommy Milone, Sean Maeda. Oh, Malone stinks. We get a good ballpark upgrade for the Oakland Bats. I'm having some interest in these guys. What's your thoughts on Sean Manaea against Minnesota here?
He's awful. Awful. How does this guy still get rotation turns? He's been awful since he first came up. And everyone was just like, oh, he'll turn the corner, turn the corner, turn the corner. Had one good start the entire season. Now, granted, it was against this Minnesota team. But that's literally has been one good start the entire year. There's too many guys in this mid-range with upside. I'm not rostering him one bit. Plouffe is back. Dozier's hitting. Oh, actually, Plouffe just went back on the DL again.
I was just about to say he went back on the DL today.
I forgot about that. He just had come off, and now he's back on it again. But Dozier, after being awful forever, has finally started to heat up. Not the time for me to use a lefty against the Twins.
I don't think he's as bad as you think he is. I don't think this is a good spot for him, but I think he was pitching a little hurt, and he looked good in that San Francisco game, his first start back, and it's tough to look good against San Francisco, except for right now. That offense is – talk about injuries.
And it's a pitcher's park. It's just like – and he wasn't even that great. He was perfectly mediocre. The guy just hasn't proven it to me that he's a major league quality lefty, and this is just – there's too many like Sano – and Dozier and Nunez, I'm not going there. I'm just going to stack the Twins.
All right, let's talk bats in this game. We'll start with Oakland, and we'll start with my final play for fantasy draft under 8K. It's Danny Valencia. I think he's too cheap at 7,500 in this spot against Tommy Milone, who there's a reason that Tommy Milone got sent down to the minors at the beginning of the season. He stinks.
I honestly think Kenry Vargas at 6,300 is too cheap against Manaea. He's going to be in the middle of the order, bat 5th or 6th, and it's just going to be runners on the entire day. He's a guy that I would heavily consider, even in cash.
We're talking Oakland first.
Well, I wanted to get it in before you stole it.
Fegley went to the DL, so we can't play one of our favorite hitters in this lineup against lefties. Do you have any interest in a guy like Simeon, who – another shortstop that I think is playable here? He's been hitting in that 2 spot against lefties.
Yeah, he's been hitting quite well recently. I definitely don't have a problem with him. I think he's a perfectly good option. You got an interest at Jake Smolinski at 9K on fantasy draft when Chris Davis is 8,800?
I saw that too. I was like, why is Danny Valencia cheaper than these guys?
It's not even close either. Like Jake Smolinski's 9K and Danny Valencia is 7,500. Coco Crisp 9,200. We got interest there too.
Oh, you know where I do have interest in Smolinski? 2,700 on FanDuel's cheap, but everybody's cheap. Like, it's going to be an interesting FanDuel slate.
The scoring is going to be through the roof.
I'll let you Minnesota here. We'll start it off. I know you want to talk about Dozier, and you already pretty much said that you love Vargas here. I think he's definitely in play. Yeah,
Dozier, even at this 10K price tag on fantasy draft, he's just been on fire. And we knew this was going to come. He was too talented to stay cold forever. He's hot. He's hitting the ball for power. Home runs, doubles, they're back. I just love everything about Dozier. Sites where you need a second baseman, lock and load. Sites where you don't need one. He's a great tournament option at this overpriced price. I'm in on the Twins today.
Any other bats? You mentioned Sano. Any other Twins bats that you like here?
Yeah, Nunez 9.2, especially if McBride gets the start behind the plate. He can't throw anyone out to save his life. I think that's another interesting option as well for a little speed bonus as well on your Minnesota stack.
Moving on, San Diego at Arizona. Christian Frederick against Zach Godley. Oh, man. The Arizona lineup is so frustrating, but this has to be a good spot for them. They have a lot of righties in that lineup against a lefty here. Good hitters, ballpark. Might be a decent pivot off of some of these other top offenses.
Can you please just tell me never to roster Arizona when they put out the stupid lineup? It never works, ever.
It's so
and
annoying.
every time and the total just stays high every time, and I just talk myself into it, like, oh, Vegas knows what it's talking about. Here, let me just keep rolling out these Arizona guys, and they put up 3 runs because the lineup is terrible, and I just keep doing it over and over and over again. But that being said, all those righties that are terrible at baseball are in good spots against Friedrich in a hitter's park. So we should be rostering him today. So I'm just sure every lefty is going to make an appearance in the lineup.
It's going to be interesting to see. We have to think that it's kind of frustrating that they called O'Brien up and they sent him back down. The guy had massive upside as far as power goes. We'll probably see Ricky Weeks in that 5 spot. We'll probably see Phil Gosling in that 2 spot. But Paul Goldschmidt has to be one of the top first basemen on this slate. He's 4,100 on FanDuel. You could play anybody, but he has to be one of your top first basemen here.
Yeah, it's a great spot against Friedrich. He's finally just been mashing the ball a little bit. He was kind of getting cold there earlier in the month, but now he's been really on fire the last few weeks. So for me, I really hard to go somewhere else in cash games, especially on a site where everyone's underpriced, so you can pay up for safety in 1 or 2 spots, and Goldie's a good spot to do so.
Got to play a catcher on FanDuel. What do you think about the beef here?
I don't think he's a bad option. 4,600 or 9,200 is just a tad expensive, but I think he's a perfectly fine option. A good pivot off of the chalk option, which I can't remember who it is. I just remember we already talked about one. It is who was it?
Oh, we talked about Ramos a lot.
Luke Wright.
Ramos, both those catchers in that game.
Yeah, so I think you're going to get Castillo maybe a bit under-owned for what he should be against a lefty in a good park. For sure. I think Gene Segura is an interesting play as well. But we said we talked about Arizona first, but I think San Diego is a very interesting tournament stack tonight.
Well, let's get to that. Zach Godley making the start here. Zach Greinke sent to the DL. Godley. We're going to probably see a few other people go to the DL this week, right? This is the week that we see. Yeah, I don't even know if it's a DL stint. It's more of, hey, we're going to give you a week off before the All-Star break and let you rest a little bit. That's honestly how I feel.
Yeah, no, I said the same thing earlier today on Twitter. I couldn't agree more that this was Jordan Zimmermann was the start of it, where there was no indication of an injury, and they're just using the time to give him a little extra breather through the All-Star break. It doesn't cost him as many games, maybe miss one turn. So you're going to see a lot more of that this week.
I think Kershaw was the start of it. And then we've seen Greinke and now Zimmerman.
Oh, I didn't think about Kershaw. That's a good point. Kershaw might have been the start of that. That seemed like a more serious injury, but you might be right. Maybe it was just a 2-week thing. Get him out of the All-Star festivities of having to go and all that. So that's not a bad call either.
Yeah, you're our top arm. We're still a decent team. Let's give you an All-Star break off and give you a reason not to have to pitch in the All-Star game. He'll probably still be there. Yeah, I agree with you on the San Diego being interesting here. Zach Godley's it's all small sample sizes, but he struggled with home runs to righties. It's a great ballpark. And Will Myers, Matt Kemp, even Melvin Upton Jr., the righties have been pretty good here for San Diego.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I love them all. And Solarte, too, has just been on absolute fire. DraftKings finally raised his price up a bit. He's been too cheap for a week and a half now, and I still don't care. He's in a really good spot against Godley, too. I really like this stack in terms of tournaments as well. Even a game stack, I think, is good.
I'm going to throw a name out at you. 4,800 on draft. Alex Dickerson. I don't know how much you know about him. I actually didn't know much about him until earlier today. I'm watching the San Diego game, and this guy actually has a really smooth and solid swing. 4,800, it really piques my interest where, you're going to want to kind of fit in two of these top pitchers.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. He's a very good punt option. Homer's now in 2 straight. I think he homered again tonight, right?
I don't actually know if he hit a homer or not.
No,
I might have.
I don't know if he did. Actually, he got pinched for earlier, so maybe he left the game hurt. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
And Schimpf, 5,200.
Yeah, that's probably where I draw the line.
Okay. I don't mind punting in Arizona against a pitcher that's unproven, that's been working out of the bullpen.
Yeah, a couple guys we probably should have mentioned. We probably should have mentioned Ricky Weeks Jr., Brandon Drury. Those guys are kind of underpriced. Those are kind of like the right-handed guys against Friedrich. I don't know why they didn't wait one more day to send Peter O'Brien down. But
One more day. One more day. Baltimore at Los Angeles taking on the Dodgers. Kenta Maeda against Chris Tillman. Some interesting pitching options in this spot. Baltimore definitely has been hot, but what's your thoughts here on Maeda, who has bounced back after those 3 or 4 bad starts?
I think this is a really good spot to attack Baltimore. You just look at the teams he faced recently, and they're all super right-handed heavy. Arizona, Milwaukee twice, and Pittsburgh. Baltimore is slightly right-handed heavy, but they still got some solid lefties in there. Crush, Kim. I think this is one of the tougher matchups he's seen, and I think the only game anyone's going to be on Baltimore, and they just have as much upside as anyone on the slate.
Baltimore has upside every night. They're one of the best offensive teams in baseball this year. A little worried. Maeda throws a ton of junk, so that worries me a little bit with guys like Chris Davis, but I think that we can target Trumbo and some of these other guys. We'll get to that in a second. Chris Tillman really piqued my interest when I was breaking down the slate. Do you have any interest in him?
God, is he hurt? You sure he's not hurt?
I don't think he is.
Man, his last 3 starts just really...
His last 3 starts have been bad, but we saw a stretch like this in the end of May, beginning of June as well, and he bounced back from that.
Yeah. God, what if Yeah, it's a good spot for him. It's a good park. Yeah, you could talk me into him. I need to go back and watch these games, see what's going on before I can really throw in a full endorsement behind him, because he was pitching so great. He threw 109, 110, 120 pitches in those 3 starts at the beginning of June, and then he suddenly has 3 bad starts in a row. I don't know if that's a pure coincidence.
I think they didn't they give him an extra day here on this turn too? I think I read that somewhere.
It might have. He pitched the June 30th. So 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's normal rest.
Okay. I thought I had read that they were going to give him an extra day. Anyway, let's talk bats here in this game. I think that if you're not playing Tillman, I think you can definitely look at a Dodger stack here.
Yeah, I definitely think you could. I just don't think it has enough power upside to win you a tournament on a large slate, so I won't go there. Yeah. But if you wanted to, have at it.
One-off guys, Corey Seager, obviously.
I don't think I'm paying that price tag.
But that's why we pay that price tag. You pay up to be contrarian sometimes. This is a perfect slate.
Yeah, but Tillman's the guy who struggles against righties. I'm just not wild about throwing a ton of lefties at Tillman. That's not exactly what I want to be doing if I'm playing against Tillman. I'd rather play Justin Turner if I was going to target a one-off.
He's 3,100 though. Everybody's gonna have Turner. I'm busting with you up here, CJ. I don't mind Seager. I don't mind Turner. I guess I don't mind Trace Thompson as well. Baltimore bats, do we stack them here, or do you think we play them as one-offs?
I will have stacks. They're overpriced on DK, which is great because that just means no one's going to have them. No one's I know you're not high on Chris Davis, but at 4,500, no one's going to play him, and he is in fuego. So for me, I'm going to have some Crush. I'm going to have some Scope. I'm going to have Jones. I'm definitely going to have some Kim at 3.1. That's for sure. 6.2 on draft. That's a cash game consideration for me. Kim has just been absolutely consistent. For a guy that couldn't hit, boy, he hit a lot, right?
Couldn't hit in preseason. They didn't know what they were going to do with him. Almost sent him to AAA, which I think would have voided his contract if I remember correctly. He's batting 341 in 132 at-bats this year.
Yeah, talk about, maybe they should have given the guy a little more chance. He's been doing good. I think it's a really good spot for him. And I think that he's just coming off a nice day off. Really good spot for him. 6K on draft. Sign me up.
Mark Trumbo on FanDuel, 3,200 if you want some power upside. Love that upside there. I know, CJ. I know for people that can't see, CJ is throwing his hands up in the air.
I mean, what is this, free day Tuesday? Let's just not have any salaries at all. Just play whoever you want.
Colorado at San Francisco, last game of the night. Madison Bumgarner, Tyler Chatwood. Chatwood making his first start back from the DL. It was a back injury. How much do we weigh this? Because, man, you want to talk about injuries. The San Francisco Giants are dealing with a ton of injuries offensively.
I normally love to have a stack against guys coming off the DL in case they're not quite right. But good luck getting me to stack this Giants offense right now. I mean, it's just I see 15 day and day to day across their entire lineup.
So no interest in Angel Pagan with Posey, Belt, and Crawford?
I mean, that literally would be the fourth best offensive option. That's the scary part.
Listen, the crazy thing about Pagan is when he scored points, he scored them in bunches over the last 10 days.
Yeah, he hit a homer today after dropping 2 fly balls. But
my guy, man. I had so much Anderson.
Yeah. That's tough break. Well, wait, Pagan is on the other team, isn't he? Anderson's on the Rockies, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. I had so much Anderson.
Yeah.
I had so much exposure to Anderson. And Pagan, of all people in that lineup, Pagan hit a home run.
Yeah, no, that's
one home run in 18 innings at Coors, goes to San Francisco and gives up 2.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, so I was so tilted. I was talking with Tommy earlier. I was so tilted. Madison Bumgarner against the Rockies. What's your thoughts here on Bum?
If you're using a lineup builder or you're building one lineup or 2 lineups, here's what you do. You hit the plus button and you play them on every team at this price on draft. Every team. There is no excuse not to play them. I don't care about being contrarian. Let everyone else make the mistake. Even on FanDuel at 11-4. You know what? I will let everyone else try to figure out where they're going to get the pitching points because I can find value hitters on this slate. Go ahead and tell me where you're going to find Bumgarner's upside against a Rockies team that can't hit lefties. Sign me up.
We've given you so much value throughout the podcast. It's almost impossible not to play Bumgarner.
Yeah, and he's even if you told me he was going to be 50% owned, I would still want to be overweight than on the field. And I don't even think he'll get to 50.
I'm with you, man. I think he'll be popular. He'll obviously be the highest owned pitcher, but you're going to just play him over the other 40, 50% that don't play him.
Yeah, you can win. There's so many offenses you can go get value and be contrarian with. I don't think you need to get cute here. Just roll Bumgarner out there.
Any bats that you want from this game? I really don't like bats in this game at all.
I do think the Giants stack has merit as much as it makes me want to puke. But anytime a guy's coming off the DL, stacking against him has merit. I would probably I think it's more viable on FanDuel where you can get away with a 3-man Posey, Belt, Crawford. But you could even throw a 4th in there if you wanted to play one of these guys and had a feeling on which one was going to actually do something.
You're really just playing him because he's coming off the DL and you're hoping he's not right because he's a massive ground ball guy that doesn't give up a lot of home runs. So you're really playing him hoping that he's not right. I wouldn't go crazy with your bankroll on Chatwood here against Chatwood.
I completely – it would just be one team and it's basically you're saying that he's not right coming off the DL. Which you would think is probably not the case, considering it's right before the All-Star break. But you never know. He could get out there, he could throw an inning and feel the back tighten up on him, and then suddenly you're getting 8 innings of Rockies bullpen. I just think in big enough, there's huge tournaments out there, I think it's worth a bullet.
Yep, we're going to play some home run derby here. But before we get into that, with just one swing, home runs can be the ultimate game changer. At T-Mobile, we know how to change the game for good. We've doubled our LTE coverage to reach 309 million Americans and extended our range. LTE reaches 2x farther than and is 4x stronger in buildings than before. Just as our network has covered, T-Mobile has a home run derby covered too. Make your picks T-Mobile's Home Run Derby Bracket Challenge at T-Mobile.com/MLB for a chance to win a trip for 4 to Game 1 of the World Series. T-Mobile, we're changing the game for good. Let's play some Home Run Derby since they're having their Home Run Derby. We can have ours, CJ, and I'll let you lead it off here.
Well, I'm taking Nelson Cruz then.
You can have Nelson Cruz, and for the first time, and I can't remember how long, I'm getting David Ortiz.
Yeah, you can have. I mean, it's a great spot for him, but Nelson Cruz against a lefty. There's certain things you can't pass in life, and that is one of them. Oh boy! So there's just so many options here for the second pick.
There's so many options.
There really are. I'm going to take McGilson now.
So no, that's a good one. I'm going to go pretty chalky here with my next one too, and it's my second favorite first baseman. It's Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to go with Daeho Lee or if I'm going to go with Dozier here. Man, above Dae-Ho Lee, but I think Dozier has more two home run upside, and I need to catch up here. I'm falling a little bit behind here in home run derby, so I'll take Dozier.
Going with 2 Twins. That's the true CJ way. Twins. I'm going to go Danny Valencia here. I really like his spot tonight in the same game.
Yeah, it's a really, really good spot. I can't argue with that. There's just so much 2 home run upside on the slate, and it's all underpriced. The scoring could be so insane.
At the end of the night, if you had to pick one pitcher not named Bumgarner, Carrasco, or Price to pick up a win, doesn't have to score the most fantasy points, but he's going to win, who would you have here?
Taijuan Walker.
Very fair. I think that's an excellent call. Oh, I'm gonna stick to what I was thinking earlier, and I'm gonna go Foltynewicz against Philadelphia.
Don't listen to Stevie on that. Don't do that.
He's going to win.
Don't do that. No,
he's going to win.
Odubel Herrera is gonna have 60 FanDuel points.
I will take the under for $50.
Yeah, I mean, it's the funny thing is that you're laughing like, oh, it's a gimme. Like, it's not a gimme against AJ Pierzynski. If he hits a home run, steals 2 bags, he's gonna get close. I mean, that's just such a bad matchup for Folty. Like, I can't think of a worse matchup than Odubel Herrera when he has AJ Pierzynski or Tyler Flowers behind the plate. Like, there literally is nothing worse in all of MLB.
Herrera hasn't scored more than 37 fantasy points in 10 days. I think that it's a really good bet for me.
I think it would be a solid bet, but I'm not going to take you up on it. But Folty is going to get lit up by Herrera. It's going to start the game with a leadoff home run, be down 1-0 before he even throws 2 pitches.
I'll take the odds on the leadoff home run too.
Yeah, I suspect you will, but don't play Folty in a pitcher's park or in a hitter's park. Do not do that.
CJ, do you realize what's going to happen on Twitter tomorrow night if Foltynewicz wins? I don't even care if he scores a lot of points. If he wins.
Odubel Herrera, if Odubel Herrera hits 2 home runs and the Braves still somehow find the win, like, was it wrong?
No, we would both be right at that point, right?
Yeah, it's just such a nightmare disaster. And the Phillies just have guys that can kind of just get their sneaky hits and then they can run. It's just not a really good spot for Folty. I would much rather play Folty against like a power hitting team, not a team that can kind of run and bunt and just kind of make his life miserable and uncomfortable. I can't touch Folty today.
Fair points. Definitely fair points. Bonus pitcher, Chen against the Mets.
Yeah, infinitely better. Do that. I'd much rather play Chen.
I'm sticking to my Folty win.
That's fine. I don't see it one bit.
All right, that's going to wrap it up here for the podcast. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, CJ?
Yeah, it's a really great tournament slate. Be responsible with your bankrolls, though, because you're going to build teams that you love, but just remember everyone else will be too, because the pricing is just super soft. So be responsible.
If you're playing on fantasy draft, there's no reason not to have Bumgarner and Carrasco in your lineups. That's all I'm going to say. And that's going to wrap it up here for the podcast. I hope everybody enjoyed their July 4th with their families and whatever they did. Some drank, some shot off fireworks, some played on fantasy draft. So if you like playing fantasy, head on over to Fantasy Draft, use promo code Grinders, and we'll see you there in the $5,000 home run tonight. Good luck in your contest, and we'll see you again tomorrow.